Hello everyone, it's Casey Vineyard here at Wonders of Wildlife National Museum and Aquarium. We are so excited to have you here as we launch our newest at-home mission through Mission Conservation, Freshwater Ecosystems. Throughout this month, you will get to meet multiple partners to learn about lakes, rivers, and streams, as well as the plants and animals that inhabit them. In order to play this really fun mission, all you have to do is log on to our Mission Conservation webpage at www.wondersofwildlife.org/mission-conservation. That will bring you to our Mission Conservation webpage. On this website, I will bring your attention down to get the app. Once you click download, that will take you to download the Agents of Discovery app, which you need to play any mission conservation mission. Once you have that app downloaded, create a user account and log in. Hit the search bar, type in Mission Conservation, and this is where we keep all of our at-home missions that will pop up for you to play. Once you have the mission popped up and loaded, we are going to direct you down to another part of our website where it says Print Images. Click Download, and you have the option to either play with the trigger images pulled up on your screen with your mobile device, or you can even print them off, send them out outside in a classroom, and you can play as if you were having a virtual scavenger hunt. So the last place that I'm going to bring your attention down to on this website is Schedule of Missions and Activities. This tab will show you all of the missions that we have live, including our current mission, Freshwater Ecosystems. Under this tab, you will also find our activity guide that we have specifically made for you at home. There will be a craft, an awesome outdoor activity, and something that you can do to promote conservation for freshwater ecosystems. The last thing that I want to show you here on this tab is your mission reward. This is your prize that you get for completing your mission. If you click on this mission reward, it will give you directions on how to download the Snapchat filter once the mission has been completed. So I'm currently standing here in our lower swamp exhibit here at Wonders of Wildlife. This area is home to many American alligators, including our amelanistic American alligator. American alligators live in freshwater ecosystems such as swamps. They can also be found in brackish water, which is where freshwater and saltwater meet. There are many species of animals that live in freshwater ecosystems. And today, here we have someone to talk about one of those species. Barbara Kelly with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. How are you doing today?
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm very good today. Excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. What do you have for us?
Well, I'm going to talk about Pacific Lamprey and lamprey in general, which is a native species in our area here in the state of Washington. And so going to talk about some different things, and let me share my screen and get going. Okay. So just to orient you to where I live, I'm in the state of Washington on the east side of the Cascades, and this is the traditional Pasquasa homelands, and I want to acknowledge them. So if you were gonna come visit me and you were an anadromous fish in the Pacific Ocean, you would come up the Columbia River, you would come past Portland. There's going to be several dams. You're on the Washington-Oregon border. You're going to take a turn north past the Snake River confluence, the Tri-Cities. This is kind of deserty area. A lot of fruit is grown here. And in the town of Wenatchee, we're going to take a turn into the Wenatchee River. And this is where I live. And also where the Pacific Lamprey lives. And I'm going to talk about lamprey in general as well. And I call them the super survivor, and you're going to learn a little bit about why that is. So the lamprey have survived 5 mass extinctions, which is crazy. So we always think that dinosaurs are so old and survived so much, and they indeed did. But lamprey have been around 450 to 500 million years before other fish species, before the continent, before salmon, and well before us. Interestingly, they haven't changed much. This is a fossil that was found not too long ago in Africa of a lamprey that was about 2 inches long, and it looks quite a bit like the ones today. So they kind of have the perfect design to survive all that time. So I want you to look at these 3 pictures and kind of make note in your mind or jot down on a piece of paper what you think makes these different from other fish, because you're like, oh, this is a fish. Wow, that is super weird and different. So jot down what you think makes them different. And if you think, oh, that's a really different fish, fish don't look like that. When we divide and classify animals, there's a grouping called class. So like mammals is a class, reptiles, birds are classes, and there's actually 4 classes of fish. So there's a variety of fish. So we have a lamprey and hagfish, which are jawless fish. And then shark skates and rays are a class of fish, and then bony fish are another class. So if they look really different from other fish, it's like comparing a bird to a mammal. Yeah, very different. So one characteristic that you might have noticed is they don't have the paired fins like sharks and other bony fish have. So it's kind of analogous to what evolves into arms and legs. Harder to see, but they don't have bones. So they have cartilage, like in your nose, that flexible stuff. So they have cartilage in their cranium and around this area up in their head. And then they have a notochord, a fluid-filled structure that muscles attach to. So these ones don't actually have vertebrae. Probably one of the things that make people not like lamprey so much is their jawless mouth. So a lot of times people are like, will it bite me? No, they can't bite you. They don't have a jaw. They also have these super cool little gill slits. You can see them and count them out. There are 7 pairs of gill slits. That's how they breathe. So it's pretty cool. They puff water in and out so that they can extract oxygen from the water. So obviously that being jawless seems very different, but actually from those gill slits is how jaws evolved. So we had cartilage surrounding those gill slits, and over time that evolved into jaws. So there you have a shark with beautiful jaws. So obviously not having a jaw is different. So they're gonna have to suck in their food and do other things, but their mouth is pretty handy. One thing you can see here is this lamprey is resting by sucking onto a rock. It can still breathe, so it can save energy. And let's see what else that mouth can do for it. It can pick up rocks. So when they build a nest or a place to put their eggs, one thing they do is pick up rocks to move them around where they want them. And they can climb with their mouth. So let's watch this video. So they use that sucking mouth and whoops. Let's get that back going again. Okay, hold on. Okay, so they're gonna move up in the water with that sucking mouth. So they're able to go up waterfalls that salmon can't ascend. Let's watch them for a little bit here and see what happens when they get to the upper edge of this. You can see how they're breathing. See how that they're expanding in so they can suck in water or oxygen. Going up, and here it comes up to the edge. And can it make that bend? No. So when they're trying to ascend fish ladders and things like that that were designed for salmon, they have a hard time getting over those sharp edges. So another thing they can do with that mouth is they can attach to other fish, and they can hitchhike or swim around with the other fish. And that's also how they eat. And many of them as adults are parasites. So they rasp into the fish with their tongue and then suck out blood and other fluids. Okay, another characteristic, there are 3 of them. So they have 1 nasal pore. So if you breathe in through your nose, it's connected into your lungs. Theirs is just a blind sac, so it's used for smelling. They have 2 blue eyes, which are quite lovely. Only in the adults, you'll see the young one don't have the blue eyes. They all have this 3rd eye, which is this light spot here. If you look up on your forehead, you have the pineal gland, which is the same. And so the 3rd eye detects light and dark. And so that's very important for them for when they don't have developed eyes, so that they can find places to burrow into and avoid predators. So some of you are like going, I don't know so much about lamprey. I've heard some really bad things about them. So I just kind of want to give a bigger view of them. Worldwide, there's around 41 species. Since they've been around before the continents, they're everywhere except for in the equatorial area. They don't like it quite so warm. Some of them are parasitic and some are not. Some just feed on small stuff their whole life. Some migrate, like the Pacific Lamprey migrates between the Pacific Ocean and our streams here. Some are native and some are non-native. So especially when we think of aquatic ecosystems, non-native species are become a problem in areas. So a lot of you are familiar with the sea lamprey found in the Great Lakes, and they accessed into the Great Lakes through the shipping canals and have developed to be a problem for the native lake trout. The lake trout didn't evolve with lamprey, and so they don't really have a good way to deal with them, and there's not all the predators of the sea lamprey as you would find in a native system. So just wanted to point that out. But here in the Pacific area, all the other species have evolved with lamprey, so they're in balance. And here's a European lamprey and just a nice identification of different species of lamprey. So I'm going to go through the life cycle, especially when we think about aquatic ecosystems. These guys are heroes for our aquatic ecosystem. And so the babies are what we call the larvae. They are very small and they have a hooded mouth. They don't have that sucking mouth with teeth. And with that hooded mouth, they feed on plant and animal bits, and they can feed on things that are dead or alive. So imagine how they survived 5 mass extinctions, because we've had ice ages, we've had volcanoes and asteroids that have blocked out the sun and have not allowed photosynthesis, and they have survived all of those things. So another view of them in the stream, they burrow into the stream like a little earthworm. They're known as the earthworm of the stream, and they aerate the bottom of the stream and pick up all those little bits of nutrients that would otherwise flush out of the system. They eat those, and they don't have a very effective digestive system, so they end up pooping out more than half of what they eat. So then that poop is available for other organisms to eat as a source of nutrients. And so it really helps your streams. It takes them 4 to 7 years to grow large enough to migrate to the ocean. And they're not even that. They're about the size of a pencil, the Pacific lamprey, when they migrate. So just for you guys, I electrofished up some lamprey so that we can show you what they are. And let's see, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and show you the lamprey that I have here. And so these ones, and you can see they're going to try to kind of burrow in to the bottom because they like to, with their third eye, get out of the light and away from predators. They're quite lively. And then I have this little one here, which you can see that a little more closely, and it's also trying to burrow in. Pretty lively. All right. And let's go back to share my screen. Okay, so that's where I found those lamprey. It's in the side channel of the Wenatchee River. They like the little mucky areas, and they were down with a lot of leaf litter and different things where organics settle. So crazy teens. So when they're ready to migrate to the ocean, they have to change because they need eyes so they can see what they're doing. They need a sucking mouth, and they need to turn silvery so that they are more easily hidden. As they outmigrate, they're a super favorite food for a lot of species of fish and birds. And one way that they really help is that the salmon are also migrating at this time, and many animals would rather eat a lamprey that has no bones than a salmon. So they help buffer that prey species. So then they arrive in the ocean. They're pretty small then. They have that little sucking mouth. So they might find some herring or hake or something small to parasitize at first. This is a picture of one on a whale, and they might, they go wherever what they're attached to goes. So they kind of get mixed up. Some of them have end up over in Russia or Japan. The Pacific lamprey are found all along the Pacific Rim. They actually use their tongue to rasp into the fish. And then after about 2 to 3 years, they're ready to return and they're super fat. And so for here, we have about, they don't necessarily return to where they came from. So because they're attached to other animals, they might end up in Russia or in California. And then they don't necessarily return to where they came. They just go as far as, they're looking for the scent of other lamprey and go as far as they can. So as they're going up, there's a lot of predators that really like to eat them. There's sea lions that also eat salmon that are happy to eat a boneless lamprey, and a lot of birds and mammals. So again, they buffer the predation on other species. Another important thing about lamprey is for the tribes in this area, they've always been an important food source. This is Willamette Falls, which is in Portland. And when they came up in abundance, they might look like this. The upper picture here is today fishing in Willamette Falls. So the tribes are allotted lamprey that they can capture, and they're very important food source for them and important in ceremonies and for medicine. So they've been used for a long time. Very important. So then they're back if they make it all the way back up, they actually wait about up here. They leave the ocean in the summer and they don't spawn until late the next spring. So here is a picture that we took in the Antiat River of lamprey spawning. So that female made her nest moving the rocks around. The male attaches to her head. And watch this. So again, they have that flexible body because it's just the notochord. So he actually wraps around her and physically strips eggs from the female. And she's going to lay about 100 to 200,000 eggs, a lot of eggs. So they reproduce in abundance. And then after they've spawned, they die and the nutrients go back into the stream. So they are essentially taking nutrients from the ocean and bringing them into our streams. So as I've said, they're very important to the tribes. And Elmer Crow, an elder of the Nez Perce, once said, how do we let something that's 450, 500 million years old go extinct? So the tribes have really led conservation efforts. And so I want to go over some of the things that we're doing to help the lamprey here. So when the juveniles, here in the West, we have a lot of water diversions. We grow a lot of fruit and different things. So screening was often designed for salmon. And so we get impinged lamprey on those, or they just get sucked into the canals. This is nearby in the Dryden Ditch. And every fall we've been electrofishing. As the water dries down, we've been electrofishing and literally taking tens of thousands of lamprey out of here and returning to the streams. But for sure, over time, that's been a big source of loss. So we're trying to improve those systems. Habitat is super important. This is the lower Wenatchee River, and showing a side channel here. Those side channels and slow water habitats are really important. And a lot of times our roads and land uses have taken away those slow water habitats, or we just have places where we don't have as much habitat for those lamprey to rear. So that's important. As I said, they rear in those streams for 4 to 7 years. It's a long time, and they're actually taking in a lot of pollutants. So just a reminder to watch pollutants that go into our streets and down the drains and directly into the rivers. Dam passage, like I showed with the one lamprey, when it was sucking up that straight wall and then it got to a bend, it had a hard time making it up and got pushed back. So our fish ladders in the Columbia River were designed for salmon, and lamprey don't pass them as well. So there's work being done to provide fish lamprey passage systems. And you can see here, there's like straight places where they can rest a little bit more, and then steeper areas so they can get up over large dams. And then we have a lot of smaller dams and culverts that we're working on improving passage at. see. Okay. Okay, so another really cool thing, because like I said, they don't return to the streams where they're from. So the genetics are really different. So we can actually, the tribes have started translocation programs, and they collect lamprey from like the lower Columbia River dams. And then this is releasing them in the Wenatchee River upstream of Tumwater Dam, which they can't pass over. And there hadn't been lamprey up there for several decades. So working with partners to release those lamprey. It's kind of cool to see them swimming there. And kind of releasing them in mucky areas. Okay, so just a bigger picture of all those green dots are places that lamprey have been translocated. And again, the Yakima Nation, the Colville Confederated Tribes have been leading this. Nez Perce in the Snake River. And I want to point out the Okanagan. Here we are in the Wenatchee, and we're like 500 miles, 7 dams, 2 more Columbia River dams up is the Okanagan. And there hadn't been any recorded lamprey there in around 10 years. And then the Colville Confederated Tribe translocated into those green dot areas. And so we've gone out and looked at the effectiveness of the translocations. And so we use electrofishing. It kind of, we can tickle the lamprey out, and very excitingly found larval lamprey in the Okanagan. Again, they hadn't been there for a while, and we really want them back there to be the earthworms of the stream. Collecting genetic samples from them, and the adults that are translocated, genetic samples are taken of them, and we can match. And so the larval lamprey that were found in the Okanagan indeed were a result of the translocations. So I want to, one other thing we find very important to, for lamprey, and I'm sure there's species in your area that are overlooked and people don't really think about, and it's really important that we educate people about animals and different things in our aquatic ecosystem, so that people actually understand what they're doing and really care about them. So again, a lot of those efforts are done with the tribes. You can see here, Davy is allowing one lamprey to suck onto her cheek. She's not afraid of it. And so anyways, you should be curious about lamprey too. You might want to, after this, like Google search them and find out some more things about them. They're used in a lot of research, since they're an early craniata vertebrate species. So we've learning how you can like clip their nerve cord and they can regrow it. So that might help us with paralysis. And just kind of in closing, here's a really cute lamprey adult lamprey in the Entiat. And you know, as I think about lamprey and how they are making the world a better place, they are really great in our aquatic ecosystems, helping buffer the salmon, helping provide, you know, capture those nutrients in the streams, and providing, you know, through their poop, providing food for other animals. As adults, they're harvesting that energy from the ocean and bringing it back into our streams. So they're really integral to our ecosystems, and hope we have them around for a while yet. And just wanted to say thank you for attending today. This was really fun for me to share Pacific lamprey with you. So continue to be curious. All right, thank you. All right,
thank you so much, Barb. Yeah, thank you so much, Barb. I do have a question for you about lamprey.
Yeah. Are
they any way related to leeches at all?
No, they're not. They're they're in the vertebrate, Chordata vertebrata. So they're a higher level species, but just kind of have a similar feeding pattern.
Gotcha. So what does their diet consist of?
So when they're small, when they just have to suck in their food, they're eating small plant and animal bits. And then as an adult, when if a lamprey is a parasite, not all are parasites, then that's when they rasp into other fish and they feed on blood and other fluids. And that's a great food source. If you have to suck in your food and you want a lot of calories, blood's the way to go.
Well, awesome. That's a great answer. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Barbara. Yeah, we loved having you as a partner today. Thank you for talking about these amazing animals. So that is all the time that we have for today. But before we go, I wanted to share an opportunity with you to get involved in freshwater ecosystems. So another great way to participate in conservation awareness this month is the Fish Art Contest. The Fish Art Contest, Wonders of Wildlife, is the Missouri host for the Wildlife Forever Fish Art Contest. The contest is a great way to introduce young people to the wonders of fish, the joy of fishing, and the importance of aquatic conservation. The Fish Art Contest uses art, science, creative writing to foster connections to the outdoors and inspire the next generation of stewards. So in order for you to compete, participants will submit an entry consisting of a completed entry form, an original illustration from the official fish list, and a one-page creative writing submission. So this year, the contest deadline is the 31st of March, so it's up and coming. So there is still plenty of time for you to submit those requirements. So for more information, just check out the website at wondersofwildlife.org/education/fish-art-contest/. Well, that is all the time that I have for you today for this live stream, but we will see you next Tuesday as we continue to talk about freshwater ecosystems at 1:30 Central Time with our partner, Alaska Sea Life. Don't forget to tune in, and remember, we all live downstream. Thank you. See you then.